Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of What's the Nerd. This is a very special episode near and dear to both of our hearts because we're coming fresh out of a new movie release weekend. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Captain America, A Brave New World. And I'm going to kick us off tonight just to say kind of some initial thoughts on the movie and how much I enjoyed it and kind of give some general thoughts on the matter.
And
And I'll
before
be
we
honest,
start, I do want to let everyone know this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie, we recommend you coming back after you have, because we're going to talk about the plot, the post-credit scene, the ending, and what it sets up for the MCU moving forward.
absolutely. And Leighton, thank you very much for that disclaimer because I had totally forgotten about it. But to start, honestly, I my expectations from the initial trailers of this movie and from some of our earlier episodes, as you guys know, were pretty high. And I'll admit they were squashed really early, much sooner than me going to the theater to see it. And honestly, I went in with super low expectations. I did not know what to expect. I did not know what reviews to believe. And I'll be honest, when I left that theater, it was a movie I genuinely enjoyed. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a masterpiece, from the Marvel Studios, but honestly, if you go in just wanting a good, solid, single hero story, like you are going to enjoy this film.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had fears going into, everyone's been talking about, the rise and the fall of the MCU, and it's no secret that the latest projects haven't been all that great. One thing that worried me is I read some early reviews right when the embargo lifted on Twitter or X, and it gave me Ant-Man Quantumania vibes where, um, you know, I didn't have high hopes going into this movie either because I'd heard the movie had gone through a lot of reshoots. A lot of people were talking about, Anthony Mackie made some comments that people weren't happy about Captain America. And so I was like, man, I really hope this movie is good. Well, the early reviews on Twitter stated that, it was a masterpiece, it was super fun, it had nothing but positive things to say. Well, the same thing happened with the early reviews of Ant-Man Quantumania, and I remember getting so hyped after hearing the reviews for Quantumania. It was Kang's arrival, Ant-Man's third film, and I loved the prior Ant-Man films. And then I left the theater so disappointed. I was like, no, please, no, do not let this be another repeat. And it's kind of left such an imprint on my brain that I don't even like watching or reading reviews for these movies anymore because I just want to form my own opinion now. I mean, as someone that does podcasts for this kind of stuff and loves this stuff, it's hard to avoid those inputs. But I went in with low expectations based on reviews that came out the following day. A lot of people from the general audience were saying, it was mid, it was not that great, CGI was bad, the first half of the movie was bad, and then it gets good. And then I heard the first half of the movie was good and the end gets bad, and I didn't know what to believe. So I went in literally throughout the entirety of the first half. I was having so much fun. I was smiling a lot. I was sitting there thinking to myself, what were people watching that I didn't? Or was I just that naive that I hadn't seen like a solid MCU movie in so long that like I was jaded, because it's no secret that any of Phase 4 has been pretty bad, especially the TV shows and things. And I didn't really like the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show as much either. So I was like, man, like, maybe this was so much better than that show that I'm jaded. But even by the time I got to the end credits, I was like, man, like I can see there's some moments with some special effects that were like a little half baked. Or the green screen behind Sam when he's talking to Sidewinder because those shots were filmed later. But like other than that, there was no moment where it was like, yep, this is what people were talking about. Like I loved it all. I liked the fact that the tone was back to serious more than campy and funny. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, there was some cheesy stuff, like the Falcon doing a little dance after taking down some bad guys. Anthony Mackie's Cap had some like cheesy one-liners, but it worked because it brought me back to it's a comic book movie. And if you've ever read a lot of comic books, the scripts are kind of bad. You're really just trying to set up epic battles and things like that, and a little plot point here and there. But overall, Anthony Mackie crushed it as the new Captain America. I believe, like, yeah, he could lead a team. He's just a normal guy without super soldier serum and, like, pulled off some awesome fights. The aerial combat around Tiamat Island was super cool. Even his fight against Red Hulk, phenomenal, phenomenal. So overall, to me, I thought it was hell. I thought it was better than Black Panther. The third act CGI fight in Black Panther was so bad to me that like I don't hold it to a higher standard like most MCU fans do.
It checked you out a little bit.
It checked me out a lot. This movie never did that. Even with the leader, like a lot of people are saying the leader was wasted. I kind of liked it. I mean, yeah, like he wasn't as intelligent or like as cerebral as like the Riddler was in Matt Reeves' The Batman, which is kind of what I was hoping for from the leader. But at the same time, it served its purpose. Like it really brought me back to phase like 2 through 3 Marvel movies where like it was better than Iron Man 2. It was better than Iron Man 3. It was better than Thor 2. It was better than Thor 3. It's definitely better than Thor 4. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, honestly, I did very much enjoy the movie. I want to first talk about a few things that kind of made me have a good opinion of the film. And
Yeah.
granted, I'll be the first to say I usually need a rewatch or two just to really kind of dive in, look at things a little deeper, not just let the nerd in me go, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah. Let's go through
But
the pros.
one of the things I really liked was seeing that progression of Cap in this film because as you know, I had my gripes with the show, mainly being just, and I understand they were purposely putting Anthony Mackie through growing pains, kind of having him become Cap, and I knew that was the main focus of the show. But there were times where I'm like, come on, you just got to do something already. Like you got to win a fight. You got to, you know.
Yes.
And the thing that I liked is in this movie, right out the gate, like you feel, hey, he's the new Captain America. There's none of that lingering doubt anymore. Like he's going on missions, he's being successful. And like you said, from the jump, the combat and the way they use the new suit, the shield, the wings, the Wakandan tech in it,
Yes.
super epic. I really enjoyed. I liked that you actually got fully fleshed out, like a fully fleshed out version of Sam as Cap and doing really cool stuff the whole movie. Like there was very rarely a moment I'm like, okay, he's not going to be able to deal with this. And I liked how you were able to combine like a little more street level esque, with the initial bad guy and go through that progression into fighting Red Hulk and still make it feel believable because of what he has at his disposal.
Well, yeah. And what was great about the beginning part, not to cut you off, was that everyone wanted Winter Soldier vibes. I felt that. You had Cap go on a mission with his sidekick, with the Falcon. You had, Giancarlo Esposito's introduction as like this menacing, bad guy who's pretty lethal. You got to see Cap fight without all of the tech, just kind of hand to hand, without even the shield. Then you got to see how he utilizes the shield different than Sam, because I mean, than Steve, because Steve had the serum, so he could like ricochet that thing off like 6 walls and still hit somebody like a truck. You can tell Anthony Mackie's like shield throw doesn't have as much power behind it, but he uses the momentum with the wingsuit. He does have the vibranium tech to kind of give him a little bit more boost, but it works. Like it's believable because it only bounces like once or twice. And the other thing was like his chemistry immediately with Joaquin Phoenix. Like, was Joaquin Phoenix a little cheesy? Yeah, but it worked as like the sidekick who's eager to like, really get into battle with Captain America. Like that's his idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I honestly like I will say the one thing I didn't love was the fact, like you said, you kind of got Winter Soldier-esque vibes, not the
Yes.
same stakes because the characters are very different and it's not like them getting Bucky,
Right.
but like you got a little more of that like covert military operation vibe from the beginning of the film. And then it opened it up later for, more of your superhero-esque kind of vibe. I will say I would have preferred personally if they kept that tone throughout the film.
Yes.
Like I think, Giancarlo Esposito being kind of just backseated so quickly, I was like, dang, like that's a bold call.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a lot more, invested in the film. Maybe he would be a super of some kind. I thought they were going to play that vibe a little more,
Yeah.
which I don't want to say was a letdown. It would have been cool if they ran it. Maybe they do. He can get a version of the serum as well later on. We're not sure. Who knows?
Right.
And I will admit, I'm going to be one of the naysayers here. I think the leader served his purpose. I will say the design, not a big fan. I know it's cheesy and people aren't going to like this. Don't think he needed to be green. I just
Okay.
feel like that was a little unnecessary.
Okay.
I liked the way he was going about things, enacting the plan, what the goal was. I liked the way they teed it all up.
Yeah.
He just still felt kind of underused. And like,
Yeah.
I didn't love the character design. Granted, that's being a little nitpicky, but it's like, I liked the reference to Mr. Blue
I
and
loved
Mr.
that.
Green.
Yes.
I loved how like, he was slowly dosing Ross with the gamma radiation to
Yep.
like create that reaction and
Yep.
back him into a corner where the old him would come out.
Yes. I want to
And I
I
will
want to
say,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I
No,
want to
go ahead.
get I want to get back into the leader a little bit towards once we start talking about Ross too, because they are integral to Ross's character and how he kind of progressed through the MCU and kind of his ups and downs as Thunderbolt Ross. I going back to Sidewinder, another pro, talking about pros of the film. The fight between the car fight between him and Sam when Sam didn't have his gear was
Epic.
super epic. Like, I know a lot of people say that basically they were trying to copy Winter Soldier because they did, a solo mission and then they had a street clothes, little fight and then they went to the big third act battle. Like, I get a lot of it was replicated, but they did it in a good way and at the same time like that's kind of what I wanted to see from this. I wanted to see a grounded Captain America story, and I wanted to know that like Sam could still get himself out of sticky situations if he had to. Like he took an axe to the stomach, a knife to the chest, he double front click kicks the dude into a car. Like the whole thing was epic, all without a gun or a shield. Like it was super super cool. And so like you said, like yeah, they did put Giancarlo in the back seat like pretty early, but the scenes we got, I thought they did a great job. And you need someone with acting chops like that to pull off the serious tone that they were going for without it being overly cheesy. Because originally they were gonna have WWE star Seth Rollins in that role, and I'm glad they didn't do that because I'm not gonna lie, one of the weakest points of Winter Soldier is George St. Pierre as Batroc the Leaper. Like, yeah, he's a great combatant, but like when he starts the speaking roles, I'm like, dude, we gotta work on the acting. It's like watching Arnold's early movies, you know what I mean?
And I would say too on that note, it's also the fact that like you have just a dude with training going against a super soldier with training. It's like it
Right.
just didn't make
It
sense.
didn't make sense.
Granted, I get that that's why they went with that fight again for Sam in the show.
Yeah.
My, you know, where you lost me in that moment was I'm like, hey, this is Captain America. Like, you can't be getting your ass kicked by a character that had a minute and a half of screen time in the previous movies.
I agree. I agree.
But at the same token, I really liked how well, and I knew they were going to, but I liked how well they tied in the show with the film,
Yes.
with Sam and Isaiah's relationship,
Yes.
him always kind of like grumbling about not taking the serum. I should have done it, like, but still
Yes.
finding a way. And I
Y-
liked how they actually tied Isaiah in. He had a decent sized role in the film. And it was cool seeing that mind manipulation play in, putting him back in the hot seat, and really trying to like turn everyone against each other. It was kind of that. Granted, like I said, and like we've said, there is a lot of things that obviously seem very similar.
Yeah.
Like you get that vibe of Zemo,
Yes.
just not done nearly as well. I hate to admit it,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
Zemo was a pretty spectacular villain.
Yep.
But you get a little bit of that vibe with the leader. He's trying to pit an already tensioned relationship between Sam and Ross, trying to put more tension on it by having Isaiah in jail, having Sam go rogue,
Which also ties
purposely
back
like,
to like Ross like not really being for superheroes when the Sokovia Accords were happening, and now he's kind of questioning should I still be employing super soldiers in my program in my
yep, yep,
military? Like I liked all that. And talking about Isaiah, I think Isaiah was one of the strongest points in the film. It was the emotional beats of the film. The training scene in the gym, although kind of corny, was super cool.
with the flags, yeah.
With the flags, and then he like bodies that heavy bag. He's swinging it around. I love that Joaquin's talking shit to him, like, "What you got, Gramps? Like, what you got for me?" And then you see him just take the bag off the ceiling, and you're like, "Okay." And I like that you also get like, people talk about Isaiah being kind of shunned and not really known to the general public as Captain America, but he was like a secret cap that
He
no one
got
talked. Yeah, and he got the shaft, and now he gets his kind of time to show like yeah, maybe I didn't get to do this, but I paved the way for Sam to be able to do this as a black man carrying the shield for the United States. And I thought that was awesome.
I liked the way they tied it in. They brought him into the spotlight more. I did like that. And granted, like in the initial points of the film, like first thing Isaiah says, I should have stayed home
I should have
just
stayed home.
because of the way everything went down. It just breaks your heart because you're like,
Breaks.
man, this guy finally gets the recognition he deserves. He's there front row and then gets manipulated by the leader into ending up right back in a prison cell.
Yep.
And you're
Yep.
just like, damn.
Yep. Absolutely. So I thought that was a really strong point in the film. Um, going into, well, actually, before we leave strong points, we're going to circle back to this, but I just want to talk about the appearance of the Red Hulk. I thought the mocap on Harrison Ford and really getting his facial features in the Hulk body was really good. I thought the action sequences were incredible. Pun intended. I didn't know how they were going to set up that fight with Sam just having a suit and a shield, no powers, like to where it could even be a match. Because I think even if Steve fought the Hulk, like that would be a bloodbath. Um, so I think just like appearance wise, what they gave us in the third act for the Red Hulk was really, really, really cool. I liked as a father of a daughter, two daughters, I liked Harrison's like want for approval from his daughter. He hasn't spoken to her since the Incredible Hulk after he turned her boyfriend into the Hulk pretty much. So like all of that stuff really worked for me too. I did want to talk about that before we got into the negative aspects of the film.
Yeah, and something I want to bring up as well is and Leighton, as you know, I am a huge fan of Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk.
Yep.
I don't want to say it's a favorite Marvel movie of mine, but the Hulk is one of my favorite characters. I loved his iteration of the Hulk. I liked the play on the darker side of it, of, the turmoil he goes through. That was kind of whitewashed over much later, very fast.
Yeah.
Um, and I really enjoyed that, and I liked that they tied it together. And instead of Ross just being a character that's on screen again because he's a general and now he's has experience fighting the Hulk, you see like, hey, like this is actually what got him to where he is, and what he lost as a result of it.
Yes.
And you do see, and one of the things I do like that they do with Ross's character in this movie is like he genuinely is fighting against it the whole time and really kind of shattering everybody's expectations and doing what he's supposed to do, but then getting dragged back into it, not by his own hand, which I did like that they actually showed like, hey, he is changed, but we're going to set it up because everyone's going to believe the setup.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I thought you're right. Like I didn't think he'd be able to be strong and really like he showed like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do right by, my past and I don't want to be known as Thunderbolt Ross, like I want to be a president for the people and show that I want to work with superhumans and whatever's best for the United States. And even like with everything going on with Japan and the other nations trying to fight for adamantium, like he was like, no, like we want peace, like we want to share this resource, like of course we want to utilize it too for defense and technology and whatever, but like we shouldn't be the only ones that have access. This is a full world event. You know what I mean?
And also just the tie-in of adamantium, like that was a good way to do it. Like I'm
I
not, I'm
agree.
not upset by that by any means.
I like that now we know the Celestials are made out of adamantium. I like that, the director talked about, hey, this is our first step, our first real step into getting a new X-Men team in here. So, like, he has to know some background information. They are going to set up Weapon X program. They are going to give us an original Wolverine that's not Hugh Jackman. And as much as I love Hugh Jackman, he cannot literally do it till he's 90 because I'll actually be upset if he has to. I want to see a new, fresh team. So, I think that's really, really cool. And I want to know too, like, we talk, Anthony Mackie is gonna come back as Captain America for Doomsday, and he's apparently supposed to be the lead. He's going to be leading one of the Avengers teams. I'm sure they'll do multiple, right? And depending on what happens in Thunderbolts or whatever, and Fantastic Four, I want to see him get an adamantium suit. He got the vibranium suit destroyed pretty much in the fight against Red Hulk. He's gonna have to get a new suit. Falcon, with his whole mishap over with the aerial battle, crashing down, being in critical condition, which again, another touch of the film that I really didn't see coming. I know, I guess I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And I liked that. And I liked, Bucky coming to be there and support and stuff. That was cool.
Congressman Bucky too.
Congressman
That's
Bucky
wild.
could have been Captain America. Bucky is like, hey, you know what? I didn't get the shield, and that's okay. I support Sam, and I want to see them get some vibranium equipment too, because I mean, some adamantium equipment too, because Doom is a huge threat, and I don't even know how he could withstand a battle against Doom and his Doom bots. Or, as we know for some of the leaks of Doomsday, there could be other superheroes or supervillains that they have to take on too. So, with adamantium
Well,
being at play, that could be huge.
and something I kind of felt too with Cap and the Falcon in this movie, I very much got a Iron Man War Machine vibe.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that was something I didn't really expect, and I feel like I should have seen coming.
Hmm.
But I liked their dynamic and how it worked.
Yes.
And kind of just something I want to throw out of left field here is like, do we think, with the possibility of other universes, of other worlds coming into play, do we think Sam does? And I'm not saying that this is the route because we know like where his stance is on the serum, but do we think there comes a point where you get a Cap from a different universe going, hey, like it's time? And like
Could be.
we know the super soldier serum is gone in where we're at now,
Yep.
but what's to say there's not a better, more improved version in one of the other multiverses?
Yeah. Or when the universe resets, or when Battle World is made, or whatever, maybe our Cap has the serum. Maybe because like that whole reality is rewritten. You know what I mean? That would be
Or
cool,
maybe it's a situation of, hey, you want to survive Battle World, like this is
right?
what you need to do, or you can't lead. You're not going to have the ability to lead the Avengers anymore because you won't survive.
Right. I want to touch back too on you talking about the War Machine Iron Man vibes between Sam and Joaquin Phoenix. I I think they had a better chemistry than Steve and Sam did. And I know like people are gonna probably like throw some bombs for that at me, but like I feel like they always try to push it. They did the whole on your left scene in Endgame, and I love it. I loved the representation of it because of the moment we had in Winter Soldier and them running and everything. But at the same time, I always felt that Steve and Bucky were bros and like they had that
100%.
chemistry, but it was never really Sam to me. So when they gave Sam the shield, I was like, I get it. I get why, and I get he's younger, and I get, the reason, and he's just an average dude, and he's still kicking ass with the Avengers. I get it, right? And Bucky was literally a Soviet assassin, so I get that part too. But I think the chemistry between this Falcon and this Cap is way better than the previous iteration we got. That's just me.
I think we got to see how it plays out
Right.
because honestly, like with Steve and Sam, it's tough because they spend so much time together looking for Bucky
Yes,
that like it developed that like back and forth. It wasn't as immediate because obviously with Steve and Bucky, like they were friends growing up. It's a whole nother
I agree.
vibe, but I totally agree with and see what you're saying.
Yeah,
But I feel like we, of course, I want to talk about the post credit scene and what we think that really tees up. But we got to talk about the negatives of the
we
film.
have to. Yeah. You go ahead.
And honestly, my biggest gripe, as much as I love the tie-in to the Incredible Hulk, which I made a very big point of mentioning, I just felt like the leader just kind of fell flat.
Would you say that's your biggest gripe of the whole film? Would you say is the leader's execution?
It's one of.
One of?
I
Okay.
just feel that it was more so just inferred what he had done by the clues they found versus him as a character.
Yes.
Like basically any of his time on screen was like, yeah, I already did this. Like it was kind of like, okay, that's cool, but like you're not actively like creating, like you've already done it.
Right. It was all
And I
dialogue and
understand it's
exposition. There was no like showing in like it would have been cool to have the first half of this movie show a bunch of stuff and you're like, what the hell? Setting up all the conflict, but like a little bit more intimate, a little, closer to the chest. And then you kind of do some flashbacks or, show how the leader was involved throughout this entire time, but you maybe didn't see him at first, or maybe you didn't know he was even a part of it. Like they revealed the leader pretty early, but they don't give you all the exposition until they kind of do a Winter Soldier, Natasha and Steve finding Zemo scene when they have Falcon and Sam show up in his lab. And you get the whole backstory. My gripe about that too is like, this is just a common sense kind of thing. You're going to go to this base that you're breaking into as the Falcon and Captain America. You bring the shield, but nothing else. Like, I don't get it. Suit up. Like, that whole thing could have been handled way easier if they just would have been suited. That was my
Yeah.
gripe about that. But like you said, yes, I do think there was a lot more telling than showing. And that sucks because when someone superpower is like, their brain is so juiced up that they can see the infinite probabilities of what can happen to everyone in the entirety of the world, and you don't really show that well. Like it makes it hard to believe. Like again, I brought up the Riddler earlier. The way that Matt Reeves did the Riddler and like how cerebral that whole movie felt, like it's not a great rewatch because you know what's going to happen, but at first you have no idea what's happening and no idea how everything was set into motion, and I feel like that's how you do a character like that. Does that make
Well,
sense?
also like yes, and they hinted at the probability where he's like, "Oh, there's a 90% chance that this is going to happen."
Right.
But it was kind of just mentioned and it was here and there. Like that could have been used a lot better.
Yep.
Um and yeah, my other gripe, and I understand like we already discussed it, but Giancarlo Esposito just being completely like kind of thrown to the side act 1. I was like that's kind of a real letdown. Like I was. And I granted a lot of the time the trailers nowadays in particular, they do show a lot. They're trying to show early, but still to like even reveal the Red Hulk. I feel like if you didn't show any of that at all, or just like the fist with the shield, you left it at that, I think it would have had a lot more impact and would have been like, oh, okay, I see where they're going now. This is cool.
Yeah, so
Not just like I was like, okay, he's out. Who's the guy in the middle? When are we getting Red Hulk?
yes. So I want to go back to the Giancarlo stuff and then I want to touch on the Red Hulk stuff. So because the leader, like everything you said is spot on. I felt the exact same way. And again, I know a lot of people griped with the design. I think if they would have been more comic accurate and had him had a big head, maybe with a little hint of green skin, kind of like they did with like Smart Hulk or something like that, that would have been a lot cooler. Um, I get though because it had a serious tone, it would have been a little like jarring to see this like dude that's dressed normal with just a giant head being sinister. Like I get it, but when we talk about Giancarlo, I think the reason he did feel so shoehorned was because he quite literally was. I mean, he was just in there for reshoots. Like they kind of didn't like the film that was made. They're like, "Hey, let's get a big name actor. Let's put him in this role." Well, Giancarlo has been wanting to be in the MCU for a long time. He's been talking about it. We all thought when he got cast in the MCU, when we heard the early rumors that it was like for like Magneto or some big villain, which would have
Doom.
been awesome, or Doom. But instead, we get him as Sidewinder, which is like leader of the Serpent Society, and like you could have set up Serpent Society like a lot better too, I guess. Like I felt like the
And
Flag
granted, they
Smashers were
could
set up better than in this
And granted,
show.
it could turn into a similar situation where
It
maybe
could.
because you had to scrap the flag smashers, they get a like there's ways to play it, don't get me wrong. And I would be hard pressed to say it's the last time we see his character,
Yeah.
but still like even from trailers and stuff, and I know you can't gauge it, like I really thought he was going to be the big bad of this movie, and I was
Yes.
hyped to see it.
Yes. Well, you hit the nail on the head too with the trailer and the marketing stuff. Like, so like when Marvel is at its best, like when you look at Infinity War and you look at Endgame, okay, arguably two of the best Marvel movies that are out there, and they were back to back, essentially. Um, what they did with the marketing was they put everything in the trailer was first 10 to 20 minutes of the film. You didn't see hardly anything except for later trailers. They always show like a third act little clip or whatever, which kind of does ruin it. But when they just show that initial teaser trailer and they set up the tone of the film, they set up the plot a little bit, and they leave the back half of the film empty and you have no idea what's going to happen, that's when they've succeeded in the marketing. You've got butts and seats, let them, see what the outcome is. Red Hulk, I agree. If they would have just like hinted like maybe he's gonna be in the film, but we don't know and we don't know when, dude, the whole third act would have been insane. I've been like, this is when they're doing it. Like we kind of saw him hulking out a little bit in the submarine. Didn't happen. Maybe they're gonna save it. Maybe that's all we get. Oh, boom, here we go. And the other thing about it is for that wow factor, and I know everyone's been thinking it, but it's like you did a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, essentially. You even brought back Betty, okay? And I know you did it for Harrison Ford's character. But after the Hulk loses Natasha, he's had this terrible arc in the MCU for the most part. There's been some ups and downs in his arc.
After Ultron,
Why?
it fell.
Why would you not? And I know you want to show that Cap can lead his own movie and finish his own movie, and I get that. But you could have had Cap battling Sidewinder or the leader or someone or helping Hulk. While maybe what happens is you bring Hulk back, he's fighting Red Hulk alongside of Sam, and then something happens where Bruce can't get out of the Hulk state because he's been Smart Hulk for so long. Then that leads us into a World War Hulk film, which we already know they've been talking about making forever. And then we finally get Savage Hulk back, and that's how you end the movie. It's like, yeah, the good guys won, but now we've got a big green rage monster that we can't contain. And in
Or even
credits,
or
like,
even a situation if you wanted to play it like you said, which I understand why they did, is making Sam the lead and have him finish it out. If you at least, like you said, if you brought Hulk in and he's still just smart Hulk, you don't even show him go crazy, and he can't finish Ross off,
yeah,
you're then just planting the seed of like, oh, he knows he's not strong enough.
yeah.
Every main fight he's been in since Infinity War, he's lost.
And then Cap has to do it. You know what I mean? Like that would have been cool.
And like you kind of plant that seed of like, hey, like I need to bring some of this back because things are getting crazy again.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you
And
even you even like and I know some fans would probably not like this, but the She-Hulk show was so bad. Hell, bring Jennifer Walters in, give her a cool ass fight scene with the Red Hulk where people see like, oh, this could be a cool character. Like she can hold her own. Like, if you were to really implement that character into your universe later down the road and you don't want it to be like, oh yeah, she was in that really shitty show, like you could have even brought her in. And again, just because there was so much Hulk DNA in the movie, I just thought it was a missed opportunity. But, you know,
I agree, and I it's tough to say because it is a Captain America, a Brave New World movie.
yes.
So that's where like it is kind of a bit of like a backhanded like, hey, like yeah, we're gonna throw all this exposition and all this in, but you're not seeing the Incredible Hulk for some time still.
Yes. Or one other alternate thing, and one thing that kind of bugged me, not bugged me, I guess it was another missed opportunity. We talk about the MCU being this grand thing, and we want to see continuity and connectivity. And a lot of people, they watch all these projects of the last phase, and they're like, how does this connect to the broader MCU? Well, you just had the only other project that was like a grounded spy thriller in Secret Invasion, minus the finale was a little eh. But the show ends with the current president that's not Ross, it's written before Ross gets in office saying, "Hey, there's literally aliens among us. They can be anyone. Like this is a state of emergency." You're just gonna pretend none of that is going on? Like while he's going through this presidency and they're getting adamantium, like there should have been a scroll in his inner circle. There should have been the whole movie should have been them having to battle the scrolls, but like in a spy way, kind of like the show where it's maybe not less punchy and more cerebral. You don't even need the leader at that point, and then you have Ross Hulk out on top of it. Maybe the leader has been working with the scrolls or something if you really wanted to tie him in that bad. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like
Well,
that
and
is such a big plot point to ignore.
it also creates more of a reason why he has an ex-widow as his lead of security.
Exactly.
Like other than just, yeah, I have these resources at my disposal, so I'm going to use them.
Yeah. Like there should be like, hey, there's this big threat out here on top of this new technological discovery. Like, and again, I'm not in the writing room. I don't know how long this movie's been planned. It could have been before they even knew they were going to do Secret Invasion. I don't know. But all I'm saying is if you again want to redeem a project that was not well received by fans, you incorporate into your next big movie that's grounded, which is Captain America.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that one bit. I think there were definitely some missed opportunities, and I feel like that's where people are more like it was mid
Yeah.
on the sense of not that you don't see the tie-in, but you got tie-in, and still it wasn't like, oh, I feel good about that. It's just kind of like, okay, it's together. There were some really cool references. You brought back an old character. Red Hulk was dope, but what now? Because he's already he's in the raft.
Yeah. Which leads us to the post-credit scene.
Yes, and I do just want to leave it at this too. Granted, they might be doing this on purpose, where that's the Red Hulk we're getting. That's it. We're done. Ross got a redemption arc, and his story is complete. I would understand if you did that. I think that would be a little shitty considering like his only fight scene is him hulking out and Cap beating him,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing. Like I think Sam used the suit really great. The fighting was awesome. The way the whole thing was done was really epic. I like how they still had to calm him down. It wasn't like a definitive Cap beat him.
Dude, when
Um,
he was when Cap was but hunkered down with the shield and the wings, and Ross is just beating on him, I was like, he's gonna die. This is it. He's gonna how do you survive that?
and I will say, like, to like, I liked how like Ross went to the raft. There was no argument. It's like, hey, I have to pay for my crimes. Got rid of relinquished the office. Like, I thought all of that was wonderful. But then I'm kind of sitting there going, like, okay, you had Red Hulk. We didn't get regular Hulk on screen. Ross is in the raft. Okay, he got his redemption, but like, it's hard to see the tie-in other
Yeah.
than just we know the Avengers are restarting, which
Yes.
that's big to know, but it's still kind of like,
Especially as a casual like member of the audience, like us, like guys like us and girls like us who, like really live and breathe this stuff, and they're doing fan theories and they're reading and listening to other fan theories, and they know what kind of Marvel is planning along the pipeline. It's easier to see that connectivity with inference. But if you just like went and saw this, you'd be like, what the hell is this dude talking about?
and then on top of that, if you didn't see the Incredible Hulk, there'd be a ton of stuff in here. You'd be like, I don't know what on earth is going on.
Yes, I agree.
So,
Um,
and granted, the movies tie together, but
yeah,
I will agree that it's like, okay, like the Incredible Hulk, that was a decade ago.
yeah,
It's like, that's a really like niche thing, especially since most people like burn that movie out of their memory.
yes,
It's like, so you're creating some really like niche Marvel references here. Like, you
yeah.
kind of gotta like nail
Which
some stuff down and tie it.
which I think is why I personally liked it because I was like, finally, you're giving some payoff to that movie because I do love it for even though it's not well received, I do love it. And I like when they do deep cuts in the MCU because it does bring you back to that early phase and you remember, oh yeah, this stuff still matters and they're still paying off these characters, which is really cool. But maybe not. I don't know. I
I
don't know.
also, and this might just be a personal gripe, but I don't think everything needs a 10-year payoff
No.
from when we first see it. Like with Thanos, it made sense.
Yep.
You really set it up. It was from the first Avengers movie, but still, you got a good chunk of movies before that. There was tons of stuff to enjoy.
Yep.
It's like, so the fact that like it feels like, okay, they're finally settling on a direction and we're going that way, awesome. But is this another 10-year payoff?
Yep.
Does it need to be? Should it be?
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of go, okay, like the 10-year payoff was the the leader.
Right.
And you're like, oh man, that's a bummer.
Yeah. And I feel like they had to because they hinted at him in She-Hulk. And so you're like, okay, well, I guess now we're gonna do it, right?
It's coming.
Yeah. So, well, talking about the post-credit scene, involves the leader again. Essentially, I think you can take it a lot of different ways, but I think most people know since Avengers Doomsday is coming next, well, next year. We have a couple movies in between, but there's been a lot of rumors about they're bringing back old heroes and villains from the early 2000s before the MCU was a thing. Like they're taking all those properties from Fox and Sony and they're going to blend them in. But I think they're going to take those characters, iterations of those characters with those old actors, and they're going to bring them back as alternate variants or evil versions of those characters for our current new Avengers team that's going to be formed by Sam in the shadows to fight against. All the while, Doom is trying to take over. I think that's essentially what everyone thinks Doomsday's about. So the leader essentially says, like, hey, I've seen it all. They're coming. You won't be able to stop them. And that's basically what he says. It's like these people, and you don't know who the hell he's talking about. But, with all the rumors that have gone on, kind of what we know is going to happen in Doomsday and Secret Wars, the colliding of worlds, I assume that's what he means. Now, another way that you could take it is that, you know, others are coming. It could be other Hulks. It could be, you know what I mean? There's talk about the World War Hulk. Maestro, an evil variant of Bruce Banner Hulk, could be coming. The leader could have also set up other things before he was imprisoned in the raft. If he's this intelligent, and he knew he was turning himself in at the end just to ruin Ross's reputation. He could have set up some other things to be revealed, in the future as well.
Well, and like you mentioned too, the scrolls. It's
The
like he
scrolls.
had information most likely on government projects and
Yes.
secrets. So it could be a hint at the scrolls, it could be a hint at other universes, other variations of characters. So there's a lot of ways it can be taken. And
Hmm.
granted, it could even be the play on like he knows Doom is coming.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I've mapped out every possibility. Like we are fast tracking it to
This
Doom
guy.
being here, and there's
Right.
nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of me thinks that like maybe they left it vague because Marvel has been kind of committing to these post-credit stingers for a long time, but not always being able to do the payoff, or like there's some that still haven't been paid off. Maybe they're trying to save their ass by being vague. But at the same time, I think they know what fans are looking for right now, and the main thing on their mind is seeing RDJ as Doom and what that's going to be like. So I think they want to get people thinking about it. And I think, we've only got this movie, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. We've got a Daredevil TV show, and I think that's pretty much all of the live action projects before Avengers Doomsday comes out. I don't really know if they have anything else set up. So you've really only got a couple other things that you can do to introduce Doom in the shadows, like you introduced Thanos in the shadows years before his arrival. And I think they want to redo that kind of magic, and they're out of time.
Yeah, because it's kind of been slow burning for a while with not much actually being said.
Well, and with no direction, right? Again, none of these projects really connect, man, from the later phase. Like none of the stuff from phase 4 and on has really culminated into anything. And I don't know how they'd even piece all this together right now.
Like there's a couple of things I see being tied, one of which is we know a good chunk of what's going on is going to be tied together in the Thunderbolts with the new Black Widow, with Red Guardian, with Bucky.
Yes.
I like that you're getting all those characters together so it doesn't feel forced in what you're trying to do main in the MCU, like in the main grouping with Cap. I honestly think the only two like heroes I can think of solidly that are going to be in that new Avengers team, it's Anthony Mackie's Cap and Shang-Chi. Like those are the
And
two that I go, they have to be here.
and
Like
Tom
if they're
Holland
not, you
Spider-Man.
guys and Tom Holland Spider-Man.
And I think the lineup will go like this. I think if you want to blend them all and have those projects that don't really matter, I think you have to have Shang-Chi because he hasn't had a follow-up. You have to have Cap because now we've shown he's the new Cap. Spider-Man because No Way Home was such a big deal, and like the franchise needs Spider-Man right now. They need a hero that everyone recognizes that will get butts in seats.
I
They're
also
gonna
think we're
need,
gonna have Cherie's Black Panther.
we're gonna have Shuri's Black Panther. We have to because she had her own movie in this phase, in this most recent phase. We're gonna have to have there's another big character. Oh, we're gonna have to have Doctor Strange because he kind of left things unsaid when Clea came
Or
to,
I think it might be Wong.
or Wong.
And Doctor Strange is going to be more of your background, not background, but like your behind the scenes character doing things just like the Ancient
Ancient
One
One,
was.
and until Secret Wars maybe or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think you might see some Eternals, but I doubt it. But I think I mean maybe their only payoff was this. Maybe it was getting adamantium from them, and that's how they kind of get rid of them. Um, and then what? What movie am I missing a main Avenger for? Oh, Ant-Man. Ant-Man Quantumania. They have to give Scott Lang. He's out of the quantum realm. He's back in New York. Something doesn't feel right to him. I feel like you have to have him be one of those OG Avengers to come back to, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. And with Scott, it does make sense. He wasn't too early.
Yep.
And honestly, it would be really cool seeing like this Avengers team up being against the Hulk.
It'd
Like
be cool.
kind of just like in the OG Avengers, that's what brought the team together.
That'd be cool. Or even the other
And
thing is
or
too
and
is
or
like
tore it apart.
we're toward apart. I feel like you have to have, they just did this Agatha show. Wiccan was introduced. I think they're going to introduce Tommy at some point in Vision Quest. I don't remember when that comes out. With the way they ended Multiverse of Madness with Wanda, we don't really think she's dead. There's rumors that her and Doom will be together in Doomsday. So maybe we get Wanda's kids at some point, and then the other side of the MCU that's been built secretly and slowly, I think needs a payoff sooner rather than later, else people are not going to care, is getting your supernatural side with Werewolf by Night and Moon Knight in a movie. You have to get those characters from TV to a movie, or people are not going to care about them.
Or oh, what's
Man
his
Thing.
name? Not Man Thing. Man Thing was dope, but not Man Thing. Blade, which God knows when that's gonna happen.
Yeah, right.
Um, the end of Eternals.
Oh, Black Knight.
Like I've been waiting for that pay. Like I know it's not that long, but like when Moon Knight came out, I was like, it's happening. Blade's coming. Like this is gonna be epic. And just
Well, and I think the whole course of the MCU would have changed if the Blade movie would have got off its feet, but they just couldn't get it done.
yeah, are we ever gonna get that movie? Or like
Well, right
is
now it's
it
on a
indefinite
hiatus.
right now?
So like apparently Marshall Ali, the new Blade, like didn't like any of the scripts. Apparently they were pretty brutal. I think Kevin Feige even kind of like didn't like it, so they're holding off until they get it right. Until they and they've gone through like three writers on the project already too. So I think they're really to reintroduce a character like Blade and also to kind of shoehorn you finally into that supernatural side. I'm sure they'll introduce a Ghost Rider when they do it too, because people have been wanting to see him for a long time. I think you got to do it right. I think it's got to be done right, or else Kevin Feige's not going to really want to do it.
Yeah, because those are characters people like despite having very bad movies back in the day. Blade is different. Blade was
Well, and
awesome.
that's why, right? Like you watch this new Fantastic Four trailer. It has so much heart, and it is I mean, for what I've seen just in the trailers alone, it is like almost a perfect live action representation of that team. I look at these trailer and I'm like, that's the Fantastic Four in the Silver Age
It's
era,
got
the
that
60s.
cool
Like,
it's got the cool retro vibe. The character designs look great. I loved the casting they chose. Like, I'm very, very pumped for that movie. And also, I know we're off tangent here, but like actually seeing that shot of Galactus,
so cool. And
I
and
was
I
like,
no,
like seeing it so in the theater as a trailer on the big screen,
yes, that was
I
dope.
was like, I'm in. I'm in.
The reason I bring that up is because that franchise has been done so dirty that Kevin Feige was like, look, like we're gonna bring the Fantastic Four in, but not until it's done right and until I know it's gonna be solid. So I think like he's realized like there are just certain pockets of this Marvel universe from the comics that have had bad action adaptations that he's like, no, like we are doing it right this time. Same thing with the new X-Men. I think he's being so careful now that he has the X-Men rights back. I mean, X-Men 97 was incredible, but it's animated, where he wants to get this team in this world so right that he's not going to rush into it.
I also think that's one of the reasons we personally got X-Men 97. I think they were also testing the waters to say like, hey, like how much do people really care about this and what type of reaction are we going to get?
Yes.
Not that we wouldn't get a live action X-Men, but kind of showing some of those characters that maybe don't have a lot of spotlight, like Morph, like Jubilee, and even with Rogue, like showing a different version of her character. I personally think they did all that along with a villain that no one really knew about.
Hmm.
like a main villain nobody knew about,
Yep.
to kind of really test the waters and be like, hey, how are people going to respond to this?
Yes.
And when they got the response they wanted, they were like, okay, we can really go full tilt here and really bring it all
Take
together.
elements of this. Yes. And I think what they did with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was the opposite of they did these Sony movies with Sony, and I don't think that Kevin Feige was actually able to make the iteration of Spider-Man that he wanted. So he just did it in animated form. And I know you haven't seen the show yet. The finale comes out next week, and we're going to do a breakdown on that. It is everything I wanted from Tom Holland's Spider-Man in this show. And I feel like if when they reset this universe, they will be making a huge mistake if they do not, when they reset it, make the origin of our Tom Holland's Peter Parker that of this TV show and just make him a variant because it is perfect.
I will say though, I do really like how they set up his start in the MCU from like
I
where it's
agree.
going now.
I
Because
agree.
I really love that we got a bit of a different version of the character where we got to really be with him through high school, not just a movie or, it was seeing that progression. And then at the end, it's, hey, now you're truly your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. No one knows you're Spider-Man. No one knows who you are. Because I will say, genuinely, my biggest gripe with Tom Holland's Spider-Man was how many people knew his secret identity and how fast. I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, isn't this Spider-Man's whole main deal is nobody knows who he is except Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't love that went out the window so quickly.
Right.
But at the same time, now I'm like, okay, now this makes sense because no one knows who he is.
Right. Yeah. No, and
And that just that one little post credit of like the swing, the classic suit, I'm like, yeah, we're good. We're
yeah.
good. We're set.
I mean, again, I don't want to go too far off topic, and I know we're gonna probably hit a lot of Spider-Man, like speculation and stuff like that next week when we talk about the breakdown of the series. But when you watch the show, you'll see what I mean about they take all of the greatest Spider-Man rogues characters, and again, like most of them anyway, because there's still multiple seasons they have to save some characters for, and they twist their origin, they twist who they are as a character just enough. You're like, holy shit, this feels like it's new, but it's perfect. Like, just wait, bro, you'll love it. So, overall,
Yeah.
what would you rate this Captain America movie out of 10?
Just because of some of the gripes I have with some of the payoffs that we got but weren't fully fleshed out, I mean, I'd put it somewhere in like a 7.5, where I genuinely enjoyed it. I don't think it's on the higher end of movies in Marvel. I think it's better than a lot of the sequel films we've gotten from the original projects. I'd kind of put it right in that, like, the only movie that comes to mind where I'm like, I put it in this tier, but like for different reasons is like Cap 1, Thor 1. Not because like it's a trailblazing, completely different film that like introduces the character, but the fact that like I enjoyed it. It has its issues where it's a little rough around the edges, but I think we're going to come back to this movie later and go, hey, like that was a really great first iteration, like showing Anthony Mackie as Cap doing it, not
Yeah,
just learning it, like being the character.
I agree. I put it in the exact same spot. 7.5 is where I want to rate it. Um, I think it has great rewatchability. Like it is one of those movies where you can turn off your brain. Like if you don't get caught up in the nuances and all the things you wanted and all the specificities of like, oh, this would never happen, or that's a little lame, or that's a little silly. It is like fun. I had fun the whole time. Like I could sit back and like just throw that on in the background and just vibe to it. You know what I mean? And like there's not a lot of Marvel movies anymore that I can do that with, except for some of the earlier films, and then like masterpieces like Endgame Infinity or No Way Home, things like that, you know.
Yeah. Or even like OG Cap or OG
OG Cap,
Thor, where
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
nostalgia factor's there and you're like, hey, like I enjoy this. This was a great introduction, and like it gets me hyped for what I saw later.
Yes. Yeah. So all right, man. Well, cool. All right. Anything you want to add?
Honestly, I don't think so.
All
I
right,
think
brother.
we covered it pretty well.
All right, man. Well, until next week when we talk about Spider-Man,
Stay nerdy, everyone.
stay nerdy.